So I want to speak about today on our mechanisms of control and maybe even manipulation. When we're children and we get overwhelmed by an experience, we often blame it on ourselves because that will create the illusion that maybe we control the situation. What do I mean by that? If mom and dad get divorced, I would say that must be my fault because why would I say that? Because if it's not my fault, then I'm helpless. And that is terrifying. And so I don't want to feel terrified. So I would say it's my fault and believe I can maybe control it. I can maybe do something about it. That would give me hope. Why is that relevant? Why am I talking about childhood like this? Because in our adult lives, we have a fear of control. Or we should just say our protection mechanisms, our ego has a fear of not having control. And it constantly tries to get control other people, control situations, control our own thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. It's constantly trying to get control and avoid a lack of control. It's terrified about it. What I'm trying to say is this starts in our childhood. Okay? This mechanisms of control. A baby doesn't have a mechanism of control. She's just crying. She's just pooping. She's doing herself. But over time, with both conditioning and domestication and with our traumas, we adopt this mechanism of control. We blame things on ourselves, or we act from the illusion that we have control over things we can't, like what somebody else does. Why would I believe, even if it's completely not true, that I can control what somebody else does, what my partner does, what my father does? Why? Because as a child, why would somebody do that? As a child, they must have experienced a relationship with somebody where they had no control over and it was very painful for them. Maybe mom was very sad and that was painful for the child to watch. That was so painful, the child will tell the story. It's because of me. I can do something to change this. And maybe the child experienced some places where she changed her behavior and that impacted how mom felt. Maybe mom was less sad. Maybe dad was less angry. So she creates a belief, I'm in the control of things. I'm in the center of things. I can control these things. Well, guess what? When she grows up, she's going to be controlling in a relationship. She's going to panic about things beyond her control because of that mechanism in childhood where it was so painful and terrifying to see mom suffering that she developed that. So these are all what we call adaptations. Adaptations is things we adapt to do as children to survive, to cope, even though they don't make sense. They helped us. For example, with this child, it helped her not feel as terrified and helpless. But when we grow older, they become a problem. Why did they become a problem? Well, let's take an analogy for this. If I'm in Canada and it's winter time, I'm going to wear a coat. And that coat is going to help me. Because if I don't wear this coat, I'm going to feel cold. I might freeze. So this coat is my adaptation to the climate around me. Now, let's say I go to the Sahara Desert, the hottest in the world, and I keep this coat on. Well, now it might be a hindrance for me. It might be way too hot for me. It might not serve me. Or I go to a hot city in China in dry season. And there's a lot of people, and I'm wearing this coat. It's going to be really uncomfortable. So what was adaptive and helpful in one situation is now unhelpful and damaging. Now I'm thinking actually maybe a coat in the desert would help with the sun, but you get the gist. Now, that's the same with these adaptations. What was helpful for this child to believe she has control, to illusion herself that she has control, is unhelpful as an adult because now she's afraid. Now she's maybe tight, she's not so free, not so loose in life, not so flowing. She has to have everything in control and under wraps. When things don't go her way or the way she planned, as a woman, she'd get upset. She'd try to fix them. She'd put a lot of effort. Maybe in a relationship that doesn't go well, she'd blame herself for it, all because she still believes she has to have control. And people, we do the same with ourselves. How do we do the same with ourselves? We try to control our behavior. We might have a natural impulse, a joy to do something, and we try to repress it. We may have thoughts and feelings that we don't understand, and we'll try to push them down. We're trying to push them away. We try to think positive to avoid these uncomfortable feelings and thoughts that we carry. So we try to control ourselves the same way. And it's not to say we should indulge in thoughts and feelings that cause us suffering, but we need to explore them and work with them rather than control and repress them. So we try to control ourselves all the time. Even when we try to change a behavior, what would it be? Our first instinct, which never works, never lasts, is to force ourselves to change. So I'm eating unhealthy. I'm eating too much chocolate. I'm going to force myself to eat healthy. I don't want to, but I'm going to force myself to do it. That's a mechanism of control. Well, what's better? What's better would be, I want to eat healthy. I'm going to choose to eat healthy. And I'm going to understand why it's hard for me to eat healthy. I'm going to understand, what does it do for me to eat chocolate? I'm going to understand, where is that coming from? And heal the wound where this behavior is coming from. And as I bring awareness to that, naturally, I wouldn't feel like I need chocolate anymore, because I'm not going to need it to compensate for something. That's a much more loving way to make changes without the aspect of control. And manipulation is an aspect of control, manipulation with other people, but we also try to manipulate our own inner state and emotions. That's where we use food or drugs or alcohol for, or even spiritual practices that are really spiritual bypass. And that's manipulation. I'll tell you a joke about that word from the book, The Presence Process by Michael Brown. Manipulation, break it down. You have a man and a nipple. And the man got a nipple as a child. And then at a certain age, he lost it. And he's going to try and get it back later in his life. And he's going to do everything he can to get it. And that's how manipulation was born, because he was willing to do anything and not be authentic to get it back. That's a joke from Michael Brown. I might cut this off or not. You'd see. So hopefully you understand a bit more what is adaptation, why we have this mechanism of control, how it limits us, because we're not free, we're afraid, we're tight. And see that the work with this mechanism is not to try and be loose. It's not to try and not control, right? That would be just more control on top of the control. It would be to explore, why am I doing this, or why do I have these adaptations? And then reach the fears underneath. And when I let go of these core fears I created in my childhood, these core pains, naturally, this mechanism of control is going to decrease and decrease and decrease in my life, and I'll be free. So it's an organic process. We don't control our way out of control. We understand why it's here, and we dissolve it with compassion, with presence, with working through these fears, and then naturally we don't need it anymore. Hopefully that's helpful. Have a wonderful week. And if you want some workshops that would teach you more about how to make these changes, you're welcome to look at the links below and join my email list to be updated on them. Much love, Daniel. Bye.